Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Max Velocity weather forecast. And in today's forecast, we'll be talking about a severe weather outbreak that'll occur in the United States today, bringing very large hail, damaging winds, and a few tornadoes. I'll give you the latest breakdown on everything that you need to know in this forecast, but let's first begin with what's happening across the United States today. We'll first begin with the Central Plains. That is actually where we've seen a little bit of storm activity so far today that's moving a bit further up to the north. But if you look further down to the south, we have a little bit of cloud cover around Oklahoma and Texas, but it's not a whole lot. And this is the area that we have a lot of concern today for a full-blown severe weather outbreak with very large hail, upwards of 4 to 5 inches in diameter, by the way, as well as significant damaging winds and possibly a few tornadoes occurring across Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. So today will be very active. And then back over in the mid-Atlantic region and anywhere in the eastern tier of the United States, we are not really seeing anything too crazy. It's fairly dry for the most part in the Midwest and as well as the southeast United States, which is something we've not been able to say, by the way, for the last several days. There have been relentless storms down the southeast United States, but luckily there's nothing too crazy happening there. But we will have another chance for severe weather again tomorrow for some areas in the southeast United States, including the area I just circled. So make sure you're staying weather aware there. We'll talk about more on what that means in just a moment, but let's talk about the weather pattern that we're in right now, because it's a very interesting weather pattern. And one big critical thing for today is the upper level winds. You might notice we're on the jet stream right now, and look over in the central and southern plains. This area here where you're seeing those pink colors and purple colors, that is representing strong upper level winds. And what that essentially means is that we're going to be able to have stronger updrafts, having higher speed updrafts in the atmosphere. That'll create larger hailstones with some of these severe storms. It'll also increase the longevity of supercells. So big concern today with this trough that's actually located, by the way, back over in the Rocky Mountains, is that we're going to see longevity with supercells and much larger hail out of the ones that become more severe, especially those discrete supercells. As we go throughout Saturday into Sunday, that jet stream starts to weaken down in the southern plains, so severe weather threat will start to diminish as we go into Monday. It looks like just today and tomorrow are our main days for severe weather. Maybe a low chance in the southeast as we go into Monday, but things look to get much better. Once we go into Monday into Tuesday, you'll notice back over in the western United States, that is where a very, very strong trough will develop. You'll notice the jet stream very strong, no doubt about that. When we see these red colors, that's indicating a very strong jet stream. Look back over the central United States, though, that is where a very strong ridge will start to build in again. By the way, this is an omega block pattern. We've seen this multiple times over the past few months. If you've been watching our channel, we've been talking a lot about this, where an omega block pattern essentially creates a big wall in the United States for not just precipitation, but as well as putting a bunch of heat into one sector. And that is going to continue here across the United States as we go into next week. And you'll notice by Thursday into Friday, that high pressure system will start to move off to the east, and then maybe another active pattern as we go into the following week. But the jet stream overall will definitely become much weaker, which means the overall pattern in the United States will be much less organized. The severe weather threat for today in the United States is very interesting. We have an enhanced risk of severe weather in the southern plains for Oklahoma, Arkansas, southern Kansas, and even the Texas Panhandle. This is an area that we just saw a severe weather outbreak in only a couple days ago. We're going to see very similar threats across this region, including significant damaging winds, very large hail, and a threat for a few tornadoes. You'll notice there is a slight risk as well that does go from Florida all the way back through Colorado and as well as into North Texas. It is a very large area for severe weather today. So make sure if you're anywhere in this area, have multiple ways to receive alerts. It'll be a very active afternoon and evening. Now for the damaging wind threat, that's our main concern for today. You'll notice there's a hatched area back into Oklahoma, and that is a big concern for today. It's damaging winds upwards of 60 to maybe 85 miles per hour, and that extends from southeast Colorado back into North Texas. So if you're in the hatched area, that represents a 10% probability within a 25-mile radius of damaging winds exceeding 70 miles per hour. But that red shaded area, that's going to include northern Oklahoma and as well as the Oklahoma metro, that is where we're going to have the best chance for damaging winds in general. So definitely a big concern there. Flying trampolines is on a high scale today, potentially going to extreme later today in case anything does get upgraded. Now for the hail threat, we are very concerned about large hail without a doubt. There is going to be obviously some very large hail. We're talking the potential for upwards of 3, 4, I wouldn't even rule up to 5-inch diameter hail out of a storm or two. 2, that is a big concern. And that what I mean by 5-inch hail, by the way, that's like a size of a DVD when it comes to diameter. So very large hail potential today. That's primarily going to be in northern Oklahoma, southern Kansas, and as well as back over in central Texas. Those are the 2 areas where we could see very significant hail. However, we could see hail outside of that region. It just means that those 2 areas in particular will see the largest hailstones, because those initial discrete supercells always have the best chance of very large hail. For the tornado risk, it's not too concerning, but there might be a couple tornadoes primarily back up into northern Oklahoma and as well as southern Kansas. Strong tornadoes are unlikely, but we very well could see at least a couple tornadoes. Have a tornado action plan in place just in case there are any tornadoes. Now let's talk about the timing. We'll begin Oklahoma and as well as the Texas Panhandle. Storms fire off around 4 to 5 o'clock this afternoon. Most of these are going to be isolated to begin with, but this is the area of development right around 5-ish o'clock this afternoon. That is where we could see some significant severe weather start to ramp up. By 6 to 7, you'll notice more supercells start to develop, and then eventually by 8 to 9, 10 o'clock, we have more of a cluster of line of storms back up into northwestern Oklahoma. So what this basically means is that we'll begin with a initial very large hail threat, but this will start to transition into much more of just a damaging wind threat across areas in Oklahoma and as well as southern Kansas. Eventually going closer to 11 to 12 o'clock, a line of storms is moving through areas like Oklahoma City, Tulsa, and then eventually going through the overnight hours. That is when that line of storms pushes off to the east. We could still see some storm activity linger into the morning in southeast Oklahoma, but overall severe weather is not expected. Now for North Texas, this is another interesting area. It happened a couple days ago where it was very interesting. We didn't see any storms develop in central Texas. That was because of a cap. We don't really have much of a cap in place today, so storms are expected to fire off around 4 to 5 o'clock over in central Texas. What this means is that those initial supercells, like these ones near Abilene that are forecasted to develop, those ones would produce mainly large hail initially, and then it would transition into more of a damaging wind threat, where we could still see damaging winds upwards of 70 to 80 miles per hour near the DFW Metroplex, as long as this line of storms that develops stays strong enough through the DFW area. So by 9 to 10 o'clock, storms continue to march out to the east, and eventually by 11 to 12 o'clock, storms are moving off into Arkansas and as well as Louisiana. One key thing to note is that instability is very high across this region, so it's very easy for storms to develop as long as there's no cap. So we really don't have any issues beyond that. Instability is upwards of 5,000 joules per kilogram, which for those that are science geeks, that is a lot of instability. That is like basically off the charts, especially for June. Now for the severe weather threat tomorrow, things are going to continue to be very interesting. We have another enhanced risk of severe weather for those in the southeast United States, primarily in the Mississippi Valley, though. That's where we're watching for a significant chance of severe weather. Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, all included in part of at least that enhanced risk of severe weather. Damaging wind threat, again, is going to be the highest concern tomorrow, primarily across those areas in the enhanced risk. And also the large hail threat is a concern, primarily going to be in basically southern Arkansas, northern Louisiana, western Mississippi. So definitely make sure you are protecting your vehicles and taking the proper precautions. For the timing, you'll notice overnight tonight, again, those storms will roll through Oklahoma and Texas. Tomorrow morning, an area of storms will push through. A lot of this activity will be damaging winds through the morning hours. By the afternoon, that is when we could see some storms explode. Those are the ones that are going to produce that very large hail potential during the afternoon. We also could maybe see a small cluster of storms develop. That could also produce the threat for maybe even some very large hail and as well as a damaging wind potential. Tornado risk does remain very low tomorrow, so maybe an isolated tornado, but overall, I'm not too concerned about that. And all this activity weekends off just after midnight. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe.